we should now be live on YouTube too. And it should have sound. Yes, it looks like everything is perfect. Amazing. So now that we got that sorted, let me share something on screen. Okay, perfect. Let me know, I may need to bump the font size quite a bit here. So let's start with that and see how it goes. No, Chris just joined. Oh, you're not late. You're right on time.
Perfect. And I'm unmuted, so I can even talk and be
Amazing.
better than background noise.
Amazing. So
Always.
let
All right.
me.
Are we ready to get this party started then?
Oh, yeah, I'm grabbing a link from Astro Docs. Let me open that.
Okay.
Oh, simple browser cannot open GitHub links. Perfect. Let me open that in
Our
another
old
one.
nemesis.
Fabulous.
So,
While you're doing simple browser. All right. While you're doing that, I think I know which link it is because I have it open too. I will drop it in the chat here
thanks.
for
So
people
let
to
me
follow
change
along.
that in
And
OBS.
oh, and I'll need to do that in the YouTube video as well. All right. So,
Okay,
oh, we can see it now.
perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna go on mute and I'm gonna let IDEO take it over. Let's do some talking and some docking.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, simple browser is simple, but it's handy sometimes. So, first, let's say, issue on the agenda is something that was reported uh, like more than a month ago, where we have multiple pages that have the exact same title in the metadata. So we have a screenshot of how it appears on Google. So one is a recipe and one is a step of the tutorial. And I think it's something we already we discussed it in talking and docking already. And I think the solution was to potentially change one of this title and potentially adding some kind of prefix, so not tutorial but tutorial, I'm guessing, before every title of the tutorial pages. So I guess in the end this should read tutorial add an RSS feed dash Astro Docs. So at first this has technically always has been possible, but this was a bit annoying to do until a specific version of Starlight. I don't remember which one. With one that added routeData middleware. So to give a brief recap, when Starlight renders a page, it uses routeData, which is an object that will contain pretty much everything it needs to render, including all meta tags from the head, and one of them is title. So this is great, but this comes with great additional features like routeData middleware, which can easily tweak, change, update this data. So the idea will be in a routeData middleware for the tutorial pages to potentially change this title for the tutorial pages. And I think we did that like maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. We actually updated Astro Docs to use the more recent Starlight version. So we should now have everything that we need to do such a thing. So what I'm going to do is switch to VS Code now again. Okay, and we still have that white page. Let me change that. So like I said, we switched quite recently to the latest Starlight version, and we are already using a routeData middleware. This is this function right here, and this is a function that will run for every pages of the docs. And what we are already doing is actually already updating the head. We are adding some meta tags. For example, OG images. We add some kind of meta attributes for doc search. We add analytics. And we are also updating the pagination in the tutorial page. So I guess we should be able to attach some new code to this function somewhere, reuse some part of existing code, and see how we can do that. So I'm also thinking right now that, oh, Chris is sharing something in chat. Realized yesterday we could move more here too. Yeah, potentially. Yeah. I think the idea behind the pull request updating that created that middleware was to pretty much do everything we couldn't do anymore in because before we were modifying props, which no longer works properly. So I moved everything required to this middleware, but I'm pretty sure, and I think I left a few mention of them in the pull request. We can definitely move a lot of logic in here. And I guess today we'll add more logic in here actually. But I just thought of something, is that if we are dealing with title, simple browser does not show title. So what we are gonna do is that, do we have a page title? Yes, we have a page title override. So an override in Starlight is a component that actually replaces a built-in component, and you can either render the default one or do some whatever you want, call your own components, render everything totally different. You can do whatever you want. So page title is this, and what I think I'm gonna do for this, let me think. What I'm gonna, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that another way. We are gonna show the title. We are gonna add an H1, we don't really care. And we are gonna display, wait, why don't I get auto completion? Wait, what? Oh, yeah. So we're gonna find a tag which is title, and I guess we are gonna show its content. Is that content? Oh, I won't find. Yes, and we should get hopefully. Yes. So I guess we will do the tricks for now. So in a page we'll have first the page title, and we are gonna use that to debug. We show the title from the meta tags. So for example, in this page, which is Astro Courses, we show Astro Courses with a pipe and followed by docs. And I guess the idea will be to tweak that that title. So we already have a function in our routeData middleware that is updating the head. So I guess we should be able to call in that function. So I'm guessing what we would want to do is basically change the head, and I'm thinking that to do that we should be able to map over all existing entry.
I might just find the existing title in the head and mutate it.
Yeah, it's possible too. So let's do another approach. We find the title, which is gonna be head.find. I think, like what I just did, it should be the tag.
Oh, tag, yeah,
Should
exactly.
be title. Oh, is the keyboard too loud? Maybe. And let's say for now that the title content is TND test. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, we should be good. Yes, we changed successfully the title. So I guess we're gonna do that by step, because I guess there are multiple issues with what we are gonna do. Oh, Sarah is asking Chris some kind of explanation for routeData.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, Heidi gave a quick summary at the top of the call, or top of this item, explaining that routeData is what Starlight uses to basically construct what's on a page. So you imagine you've got your doc site. It has however many pages, and every single page is different by having different content, having different title, having a slightly different sidebar. For example, the current page might be highlighted in the sidebar. The previous and next pagination items, which Starlight controls, are different on each page, right? So routeData is basically an object that holds all that data. It tells you these things, and including stuff like we're looking at now, the title of the page, the open graph image, if you've got one set. It basically contains all the data that Starlight then needs to render your page. And the basic concept, that part of the reason we sort of gradually evolved to use this model, was that we wanted to, as much as possible, separate the data layer from the rendering layer, let's say. So imagine you're a user of Starlight and you want to change some of the content on a page. You want to highlight a different item in the sidebar. You want to append something to a page title. You want to change something in the table of contents. These kinds of things, they're all data concerns often, and you might not really care about changing how that looks. You're happy with the Starlight components that are rendering those, but you may still want to have influence on the data getting kind of fed in there. And we didn't have the separation previously, really. There was sort of some internals that were already managing that data and passing it down to components, but sometimes the component itself would take care of some of that logic. But the only way for you to, like, as a user, to get involved would be to override a component. So you have to like provide your own, let's say, table of contents. And you could reuse Starlight's table of contents component in your component. So you wouldn't necessarily have to write any extra rendering logic, let's say, like templating logic. But you'd sort of have to override a component, stick your logic in that component that's going to modify the data, and then pass it down into one of Starlight's default components. So you had to kind of do every, let's say, data modification at the component level in a very sometimes quite annoying way. For example, if you have changes to do with how your site is paginated and how you navigate it, so that might impact your sidebar, but it also probably impact your pagination, like previous and next links at the bottom of the page. So if you're doing all these modifications at the component level, that means, okay, I have to override my sidebar and do some logic there. Oh, and now I have to kind of reflect that logic and also override my pagination component so that also mirrors what the sidebar is doing. Because if I've changed the order of my sidebar or something but haven't updated the pagination data, then my pagination arrows will not match my sidebar, and that can be very confusing. So anyway, the old model basically had all these sort of flaws by having you do all this work at the same place. You have to go into a component and do it there. There was no kind of global way to easily just say, hey, give me the data for this page and let's do stuff with it. So that's why we introduced the middleware that we're currently looking at in the Astro Docs here, which is basically your opportunity as a user to take that data, which Starlight is going to use, after you've finished with it, to render the page and make changes if you want. So in this case, we're like, okay, we want to add something to the head. And, one option would have been, let's say, okay, we're going to take our head component. In the head component, we're going to add the tag, or we're going to change data there. But this allows you to kind of say, no, I'm happy with Starlight taking care of the rendering. I like the templates. I like the way things look. I don't really want to worry about that. I just want to work on the data level. And so that's kind of what routeData makes much easier than it was before. And in our experience, I think maybe we can even see it in this example. It can often feel a lot cleaner because you don't have to look at lots of sort of complex rendering logic. You don't have to have template code. You're just dealing with, okay, here, look, give me the head. What's going to be in the head? I want to remove an item. And you can do that very easily, whereas with templating, that would be a bit more tricky. So yeah, that's the spiel of why we introduced this system.
Great explanation. I'm definitely way better than the few sentences I gave at first. We should record that and make a YouTube short or something, maybe. So, let's go back to the middleware. So yeah, we just tried and we saw that we can modify our title, but this is way too simple for now because I'm not even in a custom page and I'm updating this title everywhere. And as we mentioned in the issue, we want to do that when you are actually in a tutorial page. So I think we should already have some kind of test somewhere. Yes, here. We are checking if we are in the tutorial. So maybe we could refactor that later, but right now, what we are gonna do, just grab that, that condition and I guess add it here. And I guess we only want to do that when we are in the tutorial. And we can grab the entry from routeData. So if we find a title, and if the entry ID start by tutorial, we should get our new title. So let's check that. Okay, we are in the tutorial here. It seems to be working. Let's go back to a totally different page. Okay, it's not updated. Perfect. So now let's do something really basic to start with. I guess the idea was to have something like this. So we want to reuse the existing title, so we can just use title content. Okay, so this will not work everywhere. We are gonna talk about that later. But I guess this, what we were thinking when talking about it last time in Talking and Docking, having tutorial pages with a tutorial prefix. So this is what will be visible on Google. And if we go to, I don't know which unit is the, yes, so if we go to the specific page, that was an issue in the discussion. Here we should see tutorial, add an RSS feed, pipe docs. And if we go to the recipe, where is that recipe? Add an RSS feed. Here we should just see the original title. So I see, let me go back to the tutorial page, which now we know is the only one being modified by our middleware. So I see people are talking about potentially adding more verbose title. So Chris is suggesting, for example, build a blog tutorial and or I guess build a blog tutorial, build your first blog, your first Astro blog here would be a bit, maybe a bit too much about blog. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not an issue. I guess we could technically have different title for pages if we want. Sarah is suggesting build a blog tutorial. So I guess this points us to the next step, is that we can just not hardcode this in the middleware. We'll need to rely on our i18n solution in Starlight, because I guess we will need this prefix to be translated, change per local, and maybe, for example, even if the word is the same, maybe in some local you can have an extra space before punctuation. Some would not have that extra space. So we definitely cannot just use a basic string here. So we need to rely on internalization and UI strings. So Chris is suggesting we could do something like allowing a front matter override. So I guess this is possible. So I guess, are you thinking about a new front matter field or just using the potentially existing one for the default?
I was thinking of the existing. So currently in Starlight, you can already set properties for a page in Markdown front matter. So you can add a head property in front matter and then add the tag you want. You could add and that includes title. And if you do that, that also overrides Starlight's default kind of title generation. So if you don't set this, Starlight will look at the title of the page, look at your site's name, and kind of build what we've been seeing more or less so far, which is kind of page title, pipe, site title. And there's also some configuration options for this, but that's kind of the default behavior. But yeah, you already have this way within a Markdown file to set the actual title tag if you want to control that for some reason. Like maybe you have a page title, but you want the title tag for that page to be somewhat different. So I was more thinking is like, well, we already have that system. We could just check, is this page explicitly setting that? If it is, okay, maybe we back off and we don't interfere, and that would allow individual tutorial pages like this one maybe to provide their own custom title. And if it's not set, then we go ahead and apply our logic to add the prefix.
Yeah, makes sense. So we can build upon that. So, another issue with Simple Browser is that it does not update the URL. So what is the URL of this page? Let me... Okay, it should be 0.-introduction. So let's go to the Markdown page for this page. So it should be maybe this one. In this tutorial, you'll learn. No, it's on this page, right? Okay, in this wait, where is this page? Oh, it's this one. Oh, it's the index, that's why. So if we have some test content here, yes, it's this page. So I guess, wait, did I remove? Oh, there was two. So I guess the idea will be to reuse the existing front matter, like Chris said. So I think it should be something like this, maybe, and we should be. Wait, no, there is no attribute. Why am I thinking about attributes? It should be tag title and content.test, maybe. Let's just add that for now. So right now we should see nothing different because our middleware is overriding that that title. So let's remove it temporarily. Yes, so now it's overridden in the front matter. So what we can do, I guess, here is find, at least try to find front matter title defined in the front matter. So everything defined in the front matter is actually entry.data in the Starlight data. So I guess we are gonna have head, and I guess we can, for now we are just gonna copy paste. Maybe we can refactor some code later. And I guess the idea is that if we have a title, we are in a tutorial page, and we do not have a front matter title, we override it. So let's see how this goes. So we are, okay, let's start with random pages. It's using the default title. If we go to that specific page which overrides the title in Markdown, in the Markdown front matter, we get what is defined in the Markdown front matter. And if we go to any other tutorial pages, we get the one overridden in the root middleware, which is now hard-coded, but we're gonna fix that later. So I guess this could be a solution for pages like the intro one, where you already have Astro blog being mentioned. So we should be able to say whatever, I don't know, or maybe just build a blog tutorial or something like that. And I guess it should be maybe something like this. Let me go back. So yes. So I guess we are gonna figure out details, wording, and ideas later. So I guess the last missing piece is actually using a proper UI string for this. So let me open, so in Starlight, we have an internationalization I18N system using I18 Next. We have lots of built-in UI strings that are available in many languages. I think it's more than 20, but I may be wrong. And of course, it's you can build upon it. So you can add your own custom strings for many languages. And here we have a file in the docs repo which had many key for new sentences, and this file is the English one. So do we have anything related to the tutorial here? Oh, we have tutorial navigation, maybe we can reuse. So for now, I'm gonna just use whatever, it does not really matter, maybe the title.prefix. And I think what we want will be something like 31 languages in Starlight. Wow, amazing. So I guess we talk in English to have something like tutorial and then the title. So I guess we are gonna use a variable in here which will allow us to pass in that title, and it will be automatically extrapolated here. So this means that, for example, in French, we should be able to just do tutorial, add a space here, and put the title after. And maybe in another language, it's gonna be the title first, and followed by something, I don't know. So I guess this is the approach we will want to use here. So this is our string. New string, I'm gonna copy the name of it, and to use custom UI string in Starlight, you also have to add it to a schema. So let me find, okay, we should add this new one right after the existing tutorial ones. So we should now be able to find that new UI string in Starlight. So how would this work in our middleware? We have an API context here, which allows us to access locals, and Starlight in the locals object expose a T translation function. And this translation function should, oh, and we even already get autocompletion for it. You can pass UI string key to that function to fetch it. So here we have the title.prefix UI string key we just created. And I'm guessing right now, if I, let's say the title is this UI string, what does it gonna do? That's a good question. Oh, we are on the page where we specify. Okay, so right now we are just seeing that because we are not passing, I assume, what the title variable should be. So it's the existing content. And yes, it's working. We have our prefix and the existing title. Amazing. And we should even be able to, for example, if we, let's say, go to the French version, let's do a bit of French. So in French, we want an extra space here, and we are gonna call that tutorial. I'm not even sure if it's, does it even exist in French? I'm lost between the two languages at some point. But, oh, Armon is typing. Yes, perfect. It exists. It's written like this. So I guess now if we go to the French page here, we should see tutorial with an extra space. So I guess this is working. I think there may be an extra issue here. Because, for example, if we have a translation, oh, do you get an echo? Oh, it's that one. Yeah, I think it's my microphone and I have not yet fixed it. I need to buy a new one. Yeah, this one is tricky because I am not able to reproduce it all the time. So right now I'm thinking it may just be my microphone being pretty bad. So yeah, we just need Astro branded good microphone in the swag shop. Chris, are you on it? Can I order already? Is it?
I'll get back to you.
Perfect. Yes, that's what it
It's not
looks
so bad.
like, but to answer Adam, but it's actually not. And I'm guessing you did not have that echo at first, and I did not change anything during the call.
I thought I
So
noticed it very early on briefly, and then it kind of went away. It seemed to be almost, it's very quiet, the echo. So I think it's like when you speak a little louder, it
yeah,
becomes audible.
maybe I just
And
need
when
to.
you're speaking at a normal volume, it's so quiet we don't hear it. So I have no idea what's causing it. But
Yeah, so far I think it's just, at least that's my supposition. It's just my microphone, but I'm planning on buying a new one, so we'll see how it goes.
super weird. I don't see how a microphone could do that, but
Because
I guess some
it's a headset, so I'm thinking it's picking up the sound,
itself.
yeah, itself or something. I'm not quite sure, but I cannot see other explanation, so we'll see.
But do you hear your voice in your headphones?
No, that's the issue.
Then it should
Yeah,
not pick it up.
it should not,
Very
but
weird.
yeah. So let's go back to that title changes. So yeah, I think there is potentially another issue. So let's say I'm in this page. Oh, actually, no, we can do that better. We can go back to the French version and remove the translation. No, actually, that's not what I want to showcase. So let's imagine we have a language which has a translation for this key, but does not have the current tutorial page translated. This would be weird because if it's, do we have a language where this is not translated? Oh, is the tutorial translated in every language? No. So here, let's say what is this? Oh, I cannot even see the URL. So let me try to find which language we are currently in. Okay, it's this one. Wait, what is this file? Oh, no, it's this one. So we are gonna say that in this language, we have a translation for this string. Let's use the French one because and it should update. So yes, so here it's using the translated by string we just set for this language. But because this page is not available in this language, it's using the title from the English version. So I think it would be weird in the title to use the prefix in a specific language and everything after that in English. So I think we should be able to fix that because we have is fallback in Starlight routeData, which is a variable which will be true when the page is a fallback page, which means Starlight did not find a translation for it and is using the English version or the original version. So what we can do, I guess, that's a good question. I think we can override the language here. Yes. So let's say I want I'm according temporarily the English version. In this page, yes, okay, it go back to using the English version. So I guess what we want to do, so if the page is a fallback page, we want to use English. Otherwise, we don't pass anything, and it should find the proper language itself. So in this page, we have this translation string available, but we are using the English title, so we use the English UI string. If we go to French, we have a translation available, and it's using the French title. And if we go back to English, hopefully, yes, it's using the English UI string available and the English title. I think this makes sense. What is everyone thinking about this? Oh,
That makes sense to me, I think. If we were being really fussy, we could think like, oh, maybe we should get the en string programmatically. But there's really no point. We're not going to switch the default language of the Astro Docs to something other than English anytime soon. So
I guess we can. Yeah, I guess this does not make a lot of sense to.
actually, instead of using, yeah, maybe one way you could rewrite this is if you, each route has the data for the currently used page with its locale attached. So you could use that instead. So right now, I think it's entry meta or entry data or something. I have to look at the docs. But basically every, if I go to root data, yeah, entry meta has this object which includes the language. And it can be different from the page language, because the page language is, let's say on this page we've been using as an example, is the ZHTW, so the traditional Chinese. So that's always going to be the language for the page, because we mark that page as a traditional Chinese page. The sidebar is probably translated like it's a UI Chrome. But then if we're using a fallback, obviously we need to then use a different locale, because then the main content is no longer in Chinese. So we apply the lang HTML attribute to the main content of the page, and that's this one. So I've actually never ever had a use case for using this. I included it because we use it internally for Starlight, but no one has ever. Oops, sorry, application. No one's ever used it. I've never had to use it like in a template or in some logic that I've written for a customization, but it's there. And so I think you don't even have to check is fallback. You can just pass the entry method.lang directly, right, and it will just work, because it'll either be English if it's using the fallback, or it'll be the actual language if it's not.
Yeah, let's add a command to comment that. So let's double check that. So we have the English version. It's using the proper key. Let's go back to French. It's using the translated one. And yes, it was this one. So it's working. So we are using the English UI string key because in this fallback page, we are using the English title. Amazing. Yeah, I don't even think I've used that one before. But yeah, great use case. So I think we may have all the logic in place. Oh, Sarah had a question in chat. Would our new default language... Wait, what? Are we changing our default language?
I think it was a tongue-in-cheek question, basically saying if we did have to change the default language of Astro Docs, if we were not using English as the default locale, would it be French or Korean, as those are our most prolific translators, I think, more or less. I don't know. Who's fully translated at the moment?
good question.
We can see on ietnm.docs.astro.build. We are fully translated into French and Korean and Chinese, simplified Chinese. Oh, not quite. Yeah, there's one missing page each for French and Korean because there's a new CMS guide. 7 outdated and 5 missing pages in simplified Chinese, but it still looks very good because we have 362 completed pages. So it's a big undertaking. Those 3 languages are all doing amazingly.
So yeah, I think this may be the bulk of the feature. Of course, it needs probably a little bit of refactoring, probably this toolline. We can probably extract that in a function so we can reuse it down here. Probably some comments, like I said, but I guess that's pretty much it. And I guess what we actually want to discuss is this actually what we want to do. Tutorial and followed by the title. And I guess we would want to see which pages should have a custom title. We can maybe browse a few pages to see what it looks like. So I'm gonna remove until we so we only have the English version now. So okay, so if we land on this page, so I think we discussed first that we don't want, let me close a few tabs. We don't want just tutorial, but I think we suggested build a blog tutorial maybe?
Yeah, I would say let's start with that, because one thing we did notice when we just used tutorial in front of the RSS page, then it could look like a tutorial that was about build. It was a tutorial for RSS. So
Yeah.
I think, as Chris had said before, needing to make this a bit more verbose so that when people see this, they know, oh, this is that Astro introductory build a blog tutorial, a page from there that I might not want to jump into.
Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm going back and looking just myself at the original screenshot from the discussion that prompted this all, and it does look like both of those pages just said add an
Yes.
RSS feed.
Yes.
So in fact, what we're doing, maybe at some point what we could do is reuse this and actually put recipe in front of the things that are recipes too.
Yeah, maybe
Like
that's also
maybe that's useful.
that's also a possibility. Yeah, we have total control in this middleware, so we can target some specific pages, a bunch of them, all of them.
Yeah, so I think what's important for the tutorial pages, so what prompted this, of course, is that we don't want someone jumping in midway into the tutorial thinking these are the proper docs they want in the moment as they're trying to do something. Because being launched halfway into some project where it's assumed you've been working all the way through and you're at a particular level, that's not going to be the docs that you want for that. So as funny as this sounds, what we want to do when we choose whatever words here, we don't want people to click it. We want to make it look as unattractive as possible. What we want is to make sure people know, hey, this is our particular tutorial, so that especially if it is ever up against, a proper guide page or a reference page, that so short of saying, don't click this, it's the tutorial, that's kind of the vibe we want to give off with this. Exactly. Chris just put in the comment, do not click, bad content. So that's what we're going for. So the fact that it's a bit more verbose and makes it less appealing, that's actually fine. That's going to be what we want.
Yeah, that makes
What
sense.
we will have to do, what we should do though, is then just quickly, but paginate, let's go through the tutorial and see if there's anything that jumps out. And I imagine if there is, it would be super fast.
Yeah, that
where
was
we
my
can
plan
see that.
actually.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And we'll
Yeah.
just see if there's anywhere that using build a blog tutorial really doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm guessing this page could be one of them. Like maybe it should be about this blog tutorial, about building a blog tutorial. I'm not sure. Is that okay to have tutorial twice here? Should we do something about that?
It's not terribly if we go with the don't click this. Actually, this might even be one of
Yes,
the
it
pages
is.
though that we do want people to click.
Oh no, it's not. Never
Okay,
mind.
so the landing page itself says build a blog tutorial, build your first Astro blog. I don't think that's terrible. I don't super mind. Now, Chris, what can we envision what that would look like with the card and everything? Because um, I know this fits on the card. That would be my only concern with would it would the like open graph image and stuff where this is used. Does that suddenly
Oh,
become way too big?
that's a great question because I hadn't even been factoring this in. I don't think this will impact the
I don't
open graph
think
images. I think the open graph
so.
image will just pull from the
Yeah.
front matter title, and what we're doing here will not have any impact. Also because we're operating here at the page level. So this is basically our middleware is running as we render a page. The open graph images are generated for an entirely separate process where they're just loading the content collection and using the data there. So they don't have any, they're not influenced by routeData. It's actually an interesting point that I had never really thought about. But yeah, so they won't be impacted. They'll just get the add an RSS feed title as authored, which I think is fine. I think that the open graph being like having two identical open graphs in this case is not an issue to me because at that point, usually that means it's being shared in a certain context. It's being replied to someone who has asked about RSS. So, we're likely already sharing the correct content. So the open graph is just, yeah, exactly. It's taking the front matter title. So it's not going to impact those. I think for me, looking at these, what I think is the landing page could probably do with a sort of tightened up build your first Astro blog or build an Astro blog tutorial or something really clean and clear because it's the landing page and it's maybe what if you Google hey Astro tutorial we want this to show up and look like an appealing search result because it is a good entry point from search to learn Astro. You want to find the landing page that's going to take you into the tutorial and then you go from there. So I think this one I would probably try to remove the prefix from and customize it a little bit and maybe refine the title. Maybe it could just be build your first Astro blog. I think having tutorial in there is a good idea. So it could even just be tutorial build your first Astro blog and we still have a prefix, but it's a sort of truncated one in this case.
Yep.
Something like that.
So then maybe if what Heidio's doing will also include for us to update this at the page level, this might be one particular page that we want access to that we can just customize exactly what we want for the landing pages. And then all the rest of them can say, do not click bad content.
Yeah, so I just added the front matter for that. And of course, we can discuss what we really want in this.
Sure. Yeah, but that one, I think, yes, you're absolutely right, Chris. I think that one makes sense to be hard-coded.
So let's browse a few other pages. So, oh, this was the page I was on before. See,
right. Then now the about one is about a bit mouthy.
I think this one's okay, actually, in my opinion. I know it seems like a lot because you say build a blog about this tutorial, but in my view, it's more like the consistency. If we really go page by page, we're very likely to find items where we're like, oh, this is slightly off, or but part of what is valuable here, I think, is consistency. That you're kind of consistently marking with the same prefix. That's also going to maybe, I don't know for sure, but could help some of the crawlers as well. Kind of be like, oh, these all have the same prefix, so I kind of understand that grouping potentially.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it didn't bother
yeah,
me too much off the top. Like it's long, but I mean it really is. So it's the tutorial, and then it's about this tutorial. Yeah. So I would say let's go with it. Let's see what the others look like.
yeah.
But it doesn't
And again, this is going to be
immediately say
like,
no.
these pages are going to be like the ones that, when showing up in a search result, are actually almost definitely not what we want. That's an interesting case though, if we're using colons.
Yeah.
So whether we want to use a pipe as a separator instead, so that we kind of have that, that's an option. Whether we want to have the title first, and no, we probably don't want that. But yeah, that doesn't. Or it could be a like a, what do you call that? Like a angle bracket kind of arrow type thing. So
Oh,
it's sort of more hierarchical. I don't know. What is good? Yeah, arrow also. Or I was even just thinking like a angle bracket, like in code.
oh, I went a little bit too far on this one.
Will always be greater than to me.
Yeah, greater than, that's the right word for it. Closer. I don't know. It looks a bit funny in our font there, but like default font. But yeah, I don't know. We'd have to think about that.
Maybe also a possible solution could be to just not use the colon here.
In the actual page title.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a possibility how it would look, but
I think it's a consistent pattern we have. At least each of the units has a check-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's sort of the pattern is that you start each unit, we sort of check in, like, okay, this is where you are so far, here's where we're going to go, and then the unit follows. But I mean, there's no reason it.
It could.
I guess,
I'm even
yeah.
thinking the page title could be something like Unit 1 check-in and then a dash.
Yeah, but
setup.
the setup is the name of the unit, right?
Right. So that's why I'm thinking if this really is the Unit 1 check-in, I'm wondering if we could decide that the title for that is all one unit. Like this is the Unit 1 check-in, and then we just need a dash setup. Like that's the name of the unit. That's a
Doesn't that make it sound like that's the name of the check-in?
Let me see.
Like if I hear Unit 1 check-in setup, and I personally, like, I hear that as, okay, this is the Unit 1 check-in, and it's the setup for the check-in.
Oh.
Versus,
versus the
Unit 1
name
setup,
of
and
the
this is the
unit.
check-in for that. Yeah. I think in this case it's a little bit confusing either way, because setup is so
Yes, that's
generic.
true, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Check in, Unit 1 setup.
Yeah, so I guess
we've got so much punctuation going on in here, but I actually do like that all the punctuation is separate. Like, if anything, I think all of those punctuations need to be different because they're all doing different things. And there's no like double punctuation to make things confusing. So you know what? It looks weird right now, but I would give it a pass for now as we see how it works with everything else.
Yeah, we can continue.
Okay. This one's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it would be fine until the next unit, maybe.
Yeah, it's those check-in ones that are a little trickier.
So, yes.
Here we go.
Yeah, so as weird as it is, I mean, it's kind of doing its job, though, with all that punctuation.
I mean, there's also the option of just dropping the check-in, right? Like, we're entering Unit 2 pages, and that's it.
Yeah, I suppose that's, yeah.
At least for the, for the title tag that we're working on now, you could keep it for the actual title of the page that's shown to you.
But yes. So we could either programmatically remove all the unit check-ins.
Tricky because then you have to know what check-in is in each language and everything.
Right. So this would just be probably hard coding on all the unit introductions then. So let's see what that looks like.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we would find. Let's try to cherry pick something that could be weird, maybe.
In that case, we could always consider then going back to a colon instead of the greater than symbol.
True.
If we're not going to have check-ins.
Yes.
Yeah, because maybe that looks a bit more streamlined in general. Okay, this is my one. I regret this title so much.
We can change it. It could be a good intro paragraph as opposed to title, maybe.
Yes, this is where Sarah had a great line, and somehow it ended up as the title and not like in paragraph text.
You didn't have the brutal editor to say, yes, Sarah, great idea, great writing, doesn't need to be the title.
Exactly.
So yeah, potentially this one. Let's see. This one looks
What does
fine.
congratulations look like? Build a blog tutorial. Congratulations.
I guess we could have an issue here, depending on what we... Maybe the optional could be in the title, maybe?
Oh, because this one is technically, this is what we did because we don't really have multiple tutorial, like we don't have a good spot for multiple tutorials in Docs. We tried at one point with it to have some of these as separate ones. We had a separate view transition, adding one, but then that changed. We took that out, so then this felt a little weird. Oh, Chris is, oh, you're posting it to show the OG image for that.
Oh my god, the French one. What is the French one thing? Yeah, we probably need to change this one.
I guess PR is welcome. So think about what a better title for that unit would be. That's basically that's the theme toggle that we do. So the whole point of that unit is that we show using Astro Islands for interactivity. But then we also want to showcase that you don't have to use any UI framework components. You don't need a React or a Vue or a Svelte. You can do this in vanilla JavaScript. So the blog's theme toggle from light to dark is just regular JavaScript, just done purely with within Astro files. Yes, this is so long ago that I think this predates our translators also being a good editor for Sarah. This was maybe when they were just like, well, that's what it says, have to do. But now our translators know that when they see something ridiculous, they mention it to me, and they're like, Sarah, really? Is this what we're supposed to do? But yes, I suppose a PR to improve the title there would be welcome. We can, we can discuss it, I guess. We'll figure out what to use. Okay.
Haidu has a new one on the page that has a colon in it, given your comment about maybe not using, about returning to the colon for the prefix.
So noticing this and the fact that this is, well, it's still part of the build a blog. It's more an extension of the build a blog tutorial. So at first I was concerned. I was like, oh, if we're prefacing this with build a blog tutorial, but it's really not about building the blog. But I take that back. It is. It's about, okay, now put content collections on it. Oh, yes. I suppose so. Either yes, it's got a colon, so we can't swap everything. We can't swap colon to be the default prefix, or the word optional goes in brackets, like it often does if it's in a steps component and it's an optional step. Usually our style is to put the word optional in parentheses, so that becomes an option as well. Which would let us use a colon if we decided that's what we wanted to do. There's options there.
No,
otherwise, yeah, if we're gonna be
maybe a bracket in here too could be.
Oh, I'm not sure I'd I'm not sure I'd put the whole thing like starting with the in parentheses that this is the build a blog tutorial. I think that's pretty fundamental to describing the page, that this is first and foremost the build a blog tutorial, and it just happens to be
Yeah.
a particular page of that. Especially if we go with our bad content, do not click philosophy for most of these pages. Yeah, then I think it's important to make it stand out that it is the tutorial.
Yeah, makes
All right,
sense.
so far we haven't seen so far really, I guess just the colons make it a little dicey with punctuation, but I haven't seen any page where I think that that text is a bad prefix other than the landing page, which
Yeah, I think that's
we're
the
gonna hard
only
code
one. Yes, that's the only one we modified, I think, so far.
that we'll modify manually. But I think for everything else, I think build a blog tutorial, those words seem like a good prefix for the page.
Yeah.
Anybody notice anything different or any other pages that seem a little weird, maybe? And I think they all work for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we'll be able to check on the. We'll make a pull request of this, probably a draft right now, but we should at least be able to get a deploy preview, have people get an eye on it, check a few pages, think about how it would work in their languages. Is there any issues they are thinking about?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So then I think that would solve our problem then. And maybe we keep the greater than for now because we have colons. Oh, wait, let's check. Let's try editing manually one of those check-in pages to see if we do in fact prefer the title without check-in or
let
the
me try to find one. So, oh, simple browser is hijacking shortcut. Check in. This one maybe. I think it's this one.
yep, that
Let
looks
me
like
add a
a
word.
check-in.
Yes, it's this one. So I guess what we would want is this. And what was the idea?
So the idea was to not have check-in at all, but just use the unit 1 dash setup.
Okay, let's do that. Oh, we have to
Oh,
put,
but it does, we'd
yeah,
have to manually put the build a
yeah.
blog in as well. Yeah.
Let me try to find it. Okay, let's wait for it to refresh. This is Astro Starlight indeed. Astro Docs is using itself to dogfood Starlight. So this is what this could look like.
I think that looks really self-explanatory. Build a blog tutorial, unit 1 setup. They don't know that I mean, so I'm laughing in my head. So people don't know that when we built the tutorial, I was pushing for a unit 0,
Oh,
which I got pushback from. But then even when we had the unit 0, so I mean, like introductory stuff, blah, blah, blah. Then I knew I had a problem when we encountered a step where I really wanted a unit -1. And my team said, no, that is 0% allowed. Um, so yes, it's not a problem. I'm just laughing because I see unit 1 and I see unit 1 and I think, oh, this must be the very first page in the thing, which it is not, right? We have a landing page, we have introductory stuff, but I think that's fine. Unit 1 setup. So then the same thing would happen with like unit 2 pages or something like that.
wait, does Weaponizer recognize Starlight? Is
It
that
does not. But I happened to be just this morning. For some reason, I have no idea why, I remembered a conversation with Rick Viscomi, who works on the HTTP archive from like 2 years ago. where he said, "Oh, I'll make a PR adding Starlight detection support
Oh,
because HTTP Archive uses Wapalizer as well for its technology like distinguishing technologies." Um, and I suddenly remembered this, and then I went looking, and I couldn't find any PR. And then I learned that Wapalizer is no longer open source. They like deleted their repos, or I guess made them private. So now HTTP Archive has a fork that they maintain. Luckily, some people had forks that were around when they deleted this repo. So the source code is still around, even if Wapalizer, the company, doesn't share it, like their version anymore. So they maintain one. So I was like, okay, let me add it there because I thought it'd be cool to have
yeah.
Starlight data in HTTP Archive. Anyway, so yeah, it happened to, but because it's a fork of the Wapalizer repo, it's still you can still load that repo in Chrome as an extension and run that local version of Wapalizer using whichever additional detection rules you added. So yeah, I added some rules for Starlight and opened to PR, and yeah, I happen to have it handy. So yeah, just showing it running on the docs website. And indeed detecting that Starlight is present.
Amazing. And do
Ooh,
you have to use a
exciting.
different version of the extension?
I
I
don't have the extension installed normally, so you just you can load like Chrome extensions. You can load using the developer mode. You can load an
oh,
unpacked
but
extension. You just
yeah, I see, I see, I see.
you point it to the source directory in the repo, and it loads the JSON files that it uses for the detection rules and
Oh, I
runs
see.
those.
I was wondering if they were publishing the version from the fork on the web store, so
I
you
don't
get it.
think so. I found one fork where it's like another company or something that I think maybe does do that, and they like wanted to maintain an open source version. And I guess they rebranded it as a different name or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, I don't think HTTP Archive. It's just they maintain their fork to use. I have no idea actually how HTTP Archive works under the hood technically, like what they're doing to run the thing. But whatever they're doing, they use the detection rules somehow.
Okay.
I think they use web page test somehow. Is it possible? Like they can pass the rule state to web page test? I have no idea. Anyway,
Not sure.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they use their fork for that. I don't think they publish it anywhere.
Amazing. So yeah, Astro Docs, your Starlight. The proof is right here in chat.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think we would then, yeah, I think if we just manually update each of these check-in pages to manually add the prefix ourselves and just drop the word check-in, then we could even go back to the colon and then it's only that one last page we need to worry about
Yes.
with the
So
optional.
what? Let's go
What do people
back.
think? Do you like the greater than? Do you like the colon? I think if we don't need the greater than to distinguish from a colon, I think I kind of prefer colon, but I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
Okay, this one is a
I
bad
mean, it's going to be a
example.
problem there, but I think in
Let
general,
me go here.
Yeah, on the whole, I think colon is nice.
Oh,
Just because greater than doesn't, I guess it does in some way suggest a hierarchy, right? Like you can think of it as the first section is greater than, it's a level higher than. But
yeah,
still, yeah, colons, dashes, and pipes are much more common as far as
yeah,
I'm aware as
yeah.
separators.
I do like how that looks better, and then leaving things like greater than for, yeah, I was going to
yeah.
say like nav, so more breadcrumb, that kind of thing. Okay, so then let's say, yeah, let's do colon because I think now colon will work if we update all of the individual unit pages to remove the check-in, and then we just maybe we'll hard code uh the
So let me try
the
to
optional
find this
one.
page. It's no.
True, optional colon like maybe isn't the properest use of a colon there. Again, if I compare it to how we note optional steps within our instructions in our steps component and things like that, we usually would put the word optional in parentheses. And I don't know if that seems weird to have a page title with parentheses.
So let me.
I think
I would say
parentheses can work, but
it's certainly for sharing, like for the title that goes out, to search engines. The optional would be kind of weird, like in parentheses, I think. You know what?
yeah,
I might even, optional is really, that instruction only makes sense for people who are going through the tutorial and seeing, oh, there's another step. Oh, it's optional. In terms of seeing that link, I don't think the fact that it's optional care. Yes, I'm saying optional is optional. Thank you, Chris.
Too
I
optional.
don't think the word optional does any real value in terms of showing what's at that link. I mean, I think that works for that purpose. I mean, for within the tutorial on our page, I would still want to use optional, especially because we put it after the confetti. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say we do that, and then we can use the colon with zero concern. So we just update the landing page, the optional content collections page, and then all 6 of the unit check-in pages. Those are manual. Otherwise, everything else just has the blog tutorial colon as the prefix.
Yeah.
I think that works.
I think so. So I guess what we could do is just make a draft PR with what we have, and I will. So we have a link, so everyone can just comment on it. We get a deploy preview. People can just say, "Hey, I was working on this with you and talking and docking," and so they can get co-author credits too. And what I
Yes,
will do
absolutely.
later is probably, while it's still a draft, maybe refactor and comment a bit this code. And I will remove that check-in from other pages at the same time later, so we can move on.
Or
Seems a bit.
anyone watching can do that. Like just put it as a to-do in the PR description, and anyone is welcome to make the suggestions, knowing that that stuff needs to be done.
Yeah, so we can review what we have. So we have our routeData middleware. We have that temporary code doing what we want. So I guess we'll just stage this. We have, I guess we don't want to stage this. This is our simple browser hack showing the title in the below the page title. We can, oh no, that was not the thing I wanted to do. So we can, wait, did they remove that button to, okay, let's ignore that. We have that new strings. Oh, and Chris is sharing in chat that Wapalizer is detecting Starlight. I do not have it installed, so maybe someone does. So I guess maybe we'd add, maybe we'll change that key, but at the moment it's fine. It's not translated in anything, so we can still think about it. This we don't want. And I guess after that, it's only a few pages manually specifying a title. And this English file saying, okay, this is a string we want. So I guess we should be good. Let's revert that page title change. And fit, let's call that tutorial custom page title. I'm gonna publish this. And I'm gonna open a pull request quickly. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I cannot do that in simple browser.
Maybe Chris, if you're available while Hideo is just doing this to get the draft PR up to link. I know the other thing Hideo was going to walk us through today was the request we often get about Starlight sidebars. Heideo's been doing some research and thinking about implementation of that. But Chris, do you want to let people know what the thing is that people have been asking for, so we can free Hideo up to like get the PR made and stuff?
I can certainly ramble. Hideo has a much clearer idea of what Hideo is going to talk about. Let me actually see if I find really quickly the message from Hideo where he kind of explained that what his plan was.
Well, I'm pretty much done, so.
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, see, I told you I could ramble.
So I shared inside the pull request. It's a draft right now, but if you want to comment on it, just say something, that you work on it, that you were talking and talking. If you have any thoughts, issues, or definitely needs a little bit of work. I will do that later today, but do not hesitate to
yes,
comment
reminder
on it.
that every comment, every review, even just comments count towards your Astro badge if you participate in our Astro Docs PRs. We written by Chris. I don't know if Heidi is going to call up Astro badges, the site that Chris built to create badges based on your contributions to all the Astro repos. And in Astro Docs in particular, we have our methods for giving you GitHub credit for even comments, which you might not normally get unless people add you directly. So we have ways of making you co-authors. So yes, thanks for dropping the link, Chris. So that means that's why we really want you to get involved in these PRs. Even if your comment is just, I watched this on Talking and Docking. I have faith in what Hideo did. I didn't see him make a mistake. I'm sure it's good. Leave your comments. Get involved in the PRs. And then that also helps let us know that just you out there were watching. And these PRs often, they'll take a while. They'll need reviews and things like that. So if you're watching this on as a YouTube replay after the fact, if the PR is still open, go make your comment. Get your co-author credit. And then go to Astro Badges and see your badge.
Yeah.
And if you go to the more about this contributor page, not that anyone needs to see more about me, then you'll get the code where you can get your badge. You can add it to your GitHub profile, as many of us do, that kind of thing. Chris is saying, looks like Wappalizer is tracking Starlight sites, but just not in the browser extension. Interesting.
Oh, that's weird. Interesting.
All right, so we've got the PR up. That means this one we'll keep working through it and get it polished.
Yeah.
Hi, Theo. Yeah. Now you want to move on to stage 2 of Talking and Docking. So you had a great idea of what to do today.
Let me open the Starlight documentation. Oh, I'm not in the simple browser. So the idea now will be to potentially see some kind of limitation we have in Starlight. I will try to showcase some of the most common case where you can hit this limitation. I've started to think about various approaches to deal with this. So it's probably not that good, but it should maybe get started, discuss the idea. And what I want to do is that first, see what people think about, if maybe people have idea, maybe they have hit this limitation, and depending on how it goes, maybe try to write some documentation for this. Usually writing documentation before you write the feature could be a good idea, because I guess if you struggle to even document it, it may not be the best API, and it could be one of these cases, so I'm not sure. So I guess we'll start by showing some of this limitation. So in Starlight, you have a sidebar, and this is something you define in your Astro configuration. And one of these configuration type you can use are auto-generated groups. So what this does, for example, in these guide groups here, we just saying, okay, the label of this group will be guide, and I want you to automatically include all pages that are in a specific directory. So I guess in this case, it's a guides directory. So we have an example here. We create a group with the label constellation, and we say, okay, auto-generate all the links in it for every file that is in the constellation directory. So I guess this is how it works now, and I don't think there is much to it specifically, much more. I think that's pretty much it. So I have a basic website here. So actually, let me open it. Oh, Matthew is here. And let me... No, this is not what I want. Let me restart another dev server. Okay, perfect. I have a basic a Starlight starting template. We have just 2 pages. What I actually did is added some content to my content collection. There is an API folder with 3 documents. So of course, it could be way longer than that. It could have nested folders, lots of content in it. So it's not visible right now in my sidebar. So what I'm gonna do is edit my Astro config and just, oh, we can see the reference here is auto-generated. So I will add one. So I'm gonna say I want to create a new group. It's gonna be labeled API, and I want you to include links to all the content in my API directory. So perfect, it's working, and that's pretty much the feature as it is. But it's kind of limited. So for example, let's just say my website is not about guides or reference, it's just about API. So I'm gonna go there. Okay, this is great, this is just about API. But if my website is only about API, why do I need this folder here? I only want this, this content here. I don't need that group. So I guess one solution could be to potentially not even include a sidebar configuration. So we have extra files here, but let's ignore it. But here we can see Starlight will still include this folder because this is the API folder and it's auto-generating everything in the docs directory. And that's pretty much it. If you want to remove that folder here and just get what we had before, if you just want in your sidebar add customer at the root, delete customer, update customer, this is not possible. So I guess if we check our structure, one could say, yeah, but why do you not put this folder, this file at the root? Why are they in an API folder? Because if I move them to the root, this would work. So there are multiple reasons for this. One is maybe I just want them to have an API slug. Maybe I just want APIs slash add customer. So that's one reason. And another reason that I've been eating from now a long time in many plugins is that if that API content is actually generated by a plugin, it's really nice for a plugin to know, okay, I'm generating content in the API folder. So every time I run, I can delete this folder and regenerate everything from scratch. If I do that in a specific folder, I can delete it. It's my folder. So it's easy to do. But if the content is at the docs root, I can technically no longer do that because I will need to do, okay, maybe it's mixed with files that have been auto-read by the user and files that have been auto-read by the plugin. So I cannot just wipe, like Sarah is saying, just wipe all docs content. Maybe I'm gonna delete something that should not be deleted. So this is a limitation right now in Starlight. If you want at the root of your sidebar, the content of an auto-generated folder, it's not possible. Well, technically it's possible using, like we just saw earlier, routeData middleware. You can massage the sidebar structure, remove that API folder, but from a user perspective, it's not really great. So another example that have been requested a few times too, and actually I think it was requested 2 times, maybe in 2 days recently. So okay, you have a folder that contains auto-generated links. This is what we have in the API here. But let's say, for example, in this API folder, I want right before the first entry to manually add a link. For example, that say Swagger Playground to play with the API. And it's an external link. Well, there is no way right now. Maybe you could try, I think, even someone tried it, to add an item array here that will define a link. Let's say something, and the label, Swagger Playground. We still say it's valid, but it's not. We should fix that. And as you can see, my link is not appearing right here. But if I remove the auto-generated part, my link should appear. Or maybe I'm wrong. What did I? Oh, when I use the invalid configuration, the dev server crashed because it was. Yes, so I get my Swagger Playground, but I cannot combine these two. And even if this was possible, this may not be that great of an API because how do I know where to put this link? Should it be before the auto-generated links? After? In the middle of it? It's a bit tricky.
If I can also just interrupt, I
Of
found
course.
this. Yes, we did get this same question twice in 2 days. And apologies if the lawnmower starts to go by in the background here. This is a really interesting documentation question because when multiple people come in and say, can I do this? And in fact, the last person who asked that I just tried it to see if it would work, that does point to oh, maybe there's something about the documentation that is not making it clear that you cannot do these two things together. You cannot mix and match. And figuring out when to document what you can't do is even more tricky than figuring out how to document what you can do, right? Because I always go to extremes to say there's a line. Like we can't list every single thing you can't do in Astro or in Starlight. So our default mode has to be, well, let's list everything that you can do. And if it's not there, assume that you can't do it. That you can't do, well, depends if you ask TriUni or not. So yes, it becomes a really interesting thing because when multiple people start coming in for support, that they are trying to do a thing, then maybe our docs are leading them to think that they can do it. And how do we gracefully do, or do we even say that you can't do it? Do we continue to rely on the fact, look, if we don't say you can do it or show you how to do it, then anything else you try is at your own risk. So I'm just bringing up that I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days since this has happened, because obviously what's the last thing we want to do? We don't want to put in a big caution, do not try to mix the, like, that's some people's reaction is, oh, we should just plaster it with a big note saying you can't do this. Whereas now, if the other option is, of course, if people keep trying it and people keep asking it, maybe that means we just figure out how to make it possible, and that's what we're doing today. All right, thanks for my little digression there, Heidi.
No problem. That was good. So yeah, this is basically only two examples of some limitation, but they are all pretty much related. So let's go back to the first example. I think it's the most obvious one to explain the idea I have. And I'm not saying it would be a great idea. Chris, do not fear my idea, please. So what we have here is we are saying, okay, this API, we have a group that is auto-generated, and we should auto-generate this API folder. So what really should happen here, and what we want, is that we should remove that label. So there are two ideas I have in mind to potentially deal with that. I am just potentially start with a random one. So let me think. Maybe it should be easier to show that in a markdown file, maybe. So we have this configuration. And what we get as a sidebar is API, add customer, remove customer, upgrade customer, and that's it. So this is what we get from this current behavior. So now let's imagine imaginary API. We take that configuration, and in the part where we auto-generate links, let's imagine an attribute. So it's a bad name for this attribute, but it's mostly related to what it does technically. So let's imagine a spread attribute that you set to true. So I guess we should talk to people that are familiar with spreading in JavaScript, because what we actually generate here is an array of links. And the idea of this attribute, which could be to take all the links we have generated and spread them in the parents. So here we are in an API folder, but if we spread these links to the parent is a root, so this just basically give these links at the root. So this is one of the ideas I have. Let's imagine now if you have another configuration. Let's take this one. And we're gonna say I have no auto formatter in this. So this is another sidebar configuration. This should give us a guides folder, a link which is example guide, next an API folder which should contain these 3 links again. So this is what this configuration would look like. And now let's try to imagine what it could look like if we had that magic. Oh, actually, here. Let's imagine how it could work if we were spreading the links auto-generated in the parent directory. So I guess this will take these 3 links, which are auto-generated, and spread them to the parents and ending up removing that API folder. So this means you could add links before or after auto-generated links. So I think this may solve most of the issues, but it's very related to a technical pattern or feature. So I don't think it's that great of an API. And even if we agree that maybe it is, and even if we change the name, I'm still not sure it would be great. Maybe some people have comment in chat, or maybe Chris. Maybe Chris is already running away because that spread is just not obvious at all, or not how we should do it. But I don't think this is a great API.
Do you have other ideas?
I have one other ideas, but I have not tested it with all kind of use case. And the other idea, like for example here, let's go back. Let's go back here. Here we have a definition of a link. So my idea was to potentially, let's go back here, potentially add a new, maybe new kind of authorized value in this configuration. That would be maybe type autogenerate, and it would say directory, the directory you want. And here there is no notion of mention of a label of a group or anything. So this will just auto-generate the links in the API directory and just put them here. So it would take, if we take this this configuration, this will generate something like this. And if after I add another link that was download, it would be below all the generated links. That's the 2 kind of API I've been playing with. I have not played a lot with this one. I know this one can probably fix all the issues I've gathered so far. This one, I need to play with it a bit more. This one...
So I can...
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I can definitely share some quick thoughts. I think that sort of general principle, when you started to talk about it, I was also kind of thinking, like, okay, how would I do it? And some kind of entry which, yeah, like you said, allows you to sort of inject the auto-generated links somewhere rather than just a folder with them, is also kind of what I was thinking about. So I'll just go over like the little details that here I kind of speak to me as things where I'm like, that's a bit annoying in terms of API. So one is that you don't need a label, right? Like in, I think, for example, the example you have on the screen right now, there is no API folder anymore, so there's no label needed.
Yeah.
And so if we have the same, if if we have the same shape, then we guess we have to make label optional, or only optional if spread is true. So that feels a little bit odd, let's say. So maybe there's something there to work on. Flip side of that is the other alternative, which on the surface to me, I was like, oh, maybe this is nicer because you don't, it's a different shape. You introduce this slightly odd difference where on the one side you have this auto-generate object, and the other one is type auto-generate, but presumably all the properties would be the same, maybe. So yeah, I think maybe, I don't know, maybe one solution could be, I'm jumping to solutions, but I was just trying to share what, like the kind of issues I was thinking about, but maybe I can jump to a solution. Like one off the top of my head would be, okay, instead of providing a label, you would provide something there to distinguish the type of group instead of having it nested inside the auto-generate. Instead of being auto-generate spread, yeah, maybe there you'd have type something. But I don't know what. It's definitely tricky.
Yeah, I haven't thought of potentially. Okay, if you have a classic auto-generated folder, you get this. No, you get this.
Yeah.
And if you remove the label, you get this. But I thought this was too slight of a difference to
yeah, it's a bit subtle. I mean, it does in a way make sense. It's like if you label your group, you get a label.
Yeah,
if you don't label it, you don't.
It's the one that makes the most sense. But I was thinking, is it enough? Is it obvious? And so I guess that's why I wanted to do that kind of discussion first, to get feedback and potentially see what would people think could be interesting. For example, we could say, okay, this one does not make a lot of sense. We scratch this one. Maybe this one with a spread or flat. I think Sarah mentioned flat, which I think is exactly the same as spread, so it could be flat here.
Yeah. Sarah mentioned flat, and then also called out there's a little bit of maybe. Well, given we're talking in general about auto-generated groups, we can talk about a few other aspects of them that I've kind of kept in mind. I think there's even maybe a comment somewhere in the code base from this being a vague thought I had from week 2 of me committing some code. Which is also control over depth. Oh, yeah, there we go. Like you're
I remember this comment.
So yeah, for example, maybe there are circumstances where you want to auto-generate and you have a big tree, but you only want to auto-generate the top level or something, or the first 2 levels. You don't want to auto-generate, 5 levels deep of documents in some cases. So thinking about the kind of controls we might want about auto-generation, there's depth. And then I guess you have flat, but if you have flat, and as Sarah called out, she said that wouldn't work if there are nested directories. And well, it could, because if it became like, if we're thinking in the JavaScript equivalent, in JavaScript, if you call flat on an array, you can provide an argument and tell it exactly how many levels deep you want to flatten. I don't know if that's good API or not. That might still be quite weird when you're thinking about just your sidebar, and then all of a sudden to be thinking like, oh wow, I want to squish 2 levels but not 3 levels, or I want to squish everything. I don't know if that's really a useful way to think about it or not, but yeah, right, yeah, you're showing a nested level in here. Whereas I think I would expect there are other, I mean, if we're thinking about flattening, another potential benefit here we've seen is that, well, Heidi and I at least have talked about some possibilities here, but one kind of pain point or rough edge that some of the Starlight sidebar configuration has is that right now there's no official way to really manage multi-depth auto-generated sidebars. It's also why we haven't ever really, well, personally, I haven't really ever gone into exploring depth, because in my own sites sites I've managed, I avoid using auto-generated sidebars for of a depth more than 1, because there's no way to really control directory names. So if you have a subdirectory, we kind of use the subdirectory, file name as a label for the directory, but it's a bit of a bad system because it's a subdirectory on your file system. You might just be like a lowercase word that you're going to have in the URL. It's not really necessarily the same thing as a label. It's not localized for different languages. There's all these rough edges that make that not a particularly good API to work with. And so Haidu has a nice Starlight plugin currently for that we've been talking about, whether eventually could become something we'd integrate into the core to allow options control over that. But yeah, that's also part of this, I think, is that flattening everything could be another workaround. Is like, okay, if you want to organize things into nested folders, but maybe just stuff everything into one big group in the sidebar, then being able to flatten it all might be an API someone could want. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, don't know.
So yeah. So right now, I think, of course, I'm not saying this should be the API, but I think, at least, I think I want to remove this idea because, like you mentioned, it's a different kind of configuration. It's confusing considering we have this one. Bye, Matthew. And I think maybe the two I'd like to investigate are this one, where you have an extra attribute that say it could be spread because technically it's spreading elements. It could be flat, but like we mentioned, flat could be tricky because maybe people would expect to be flattened to a specific, to be totally flattened versus only the first level. Or but basically the idea is just a keyword, whatever. Here saying, okay, we should remove that folder. And the other one would be, okay, there is no extra keyword, but if you just omit the label of the folder, you do not get a folder. That's the two API I think right now makes the most sense to me. Not sure if they are good or anything, and like it's not a decision. We do not have to decide. We are not gonna cut the feature or anything. The idea for me will be basically to try to see how this would feel to document both of this approach and see if one is maybe more obvious to document than the other. Maybe it could be a hint that the API is better. Maybe while doing that, other idea could come to mind. Oh, I see a question in chat. So that label is either a string or, if omitted, doesn't show up on bumps. Yeah, so basically, if you omit the label folder, or you pass undefined maybe, it's technically bumps the page higher, but technically what happens is that you do not even get a folder, basically. You just get all the auto-generated links. Oh, and Chris is sharing another sidebar related request, so let me open that to show it on screen. Oh, simple browser. Give me 1 second. Let me try to find it in another window. Okay, should be this one. So, allow sidebar to associate subpages with parent pages. Oh, I've seen this one. So I guess the idea is that you want to control which sidebar entry is highlighted, even for pages that are not listed in the sidebar. So let's see an example in our code. So let me switch back to VS Code. Okay, it's this one. Okay, so how to demonstrate that? Okay, let's say we have an API folder and we are manually gonna list some pages here, add customer and delete customer, remove that group. Oh, so if it's still running, no, oh no, it is. Oh, it's still going to GitHub for whatever reason. Simple browser. So we have a sidebar, for example, with some links, and the page I'm on it is not listed in the sidebar, the example guide. And I guess the idea is to say, okay, this page, when I am on this page, I should highlight, for example, add customer or delete customer. I think that's the idea, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and I think we have this use case in Astro Docs. Like Sarah is saying that, for example, all the tutorial pages are not listed in the sidebar, but when you are in the tutorial, so let me go to Astro.build. Oh, I think it's redirection that...
It could be it doesn't do, doesn't handle redirect.
yeah,
Wild.
okay. So I'm in a random page in the tutorial, but this page is still highlighted. So it's about the ability to say, okay, for this page, highlight this page in the sidebar when I'm on it. So I'm not something I have... I mean, I have given some thought to the idea, but I'm not sure yet if any, at least so far, any of the API I've thought of would be helpful to handle this kind of case. Maybe Chris has some ideas.
Yeah, I wasn't sharing it so much as to say this
Oh,
isn't necessarily auto-generate related, but just thinking, I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't think I'd solve this with this. I mean, you could,
yeah,
in theory, you could have an auto-generate option to kind of like drop children or something, but associate them. Like it would be very specific. You'd be able to auto-generate an item that will act as a parent, but that seems like the wrong place to do this API because this
yeah.
is more generic. You could want to associate all kinds of things. They shared a readpress API.
Yeah, I think it's at match or something.
Yeah, active match. Yes, exactly. You're right. So they shared that. So which basically allows you to provide a regular expression pattern and say anything that any URLs that match that pattern belong to this sidebar item. So you define it in the sidebar configuration, and that link becomes the sort of parent in terms of being highlighted whenever anything that matches that that pattern is found. So they linked that as a good example, which I really appreciated because we have this question in our feature requests template saying, do you have examples of this feature in other projects? And no one ever fills it out, which is a little frustrating because it's actually one of the most valuable questions in the feature request template, because if there are existing API examples that we can learn from, that it's super helpful. We can either kind of evaluate how that works, whether it kind of fits with our model, and maybe someone else has already done some research and made experiences, know whether that's a good solution or not. Or we might look at it and go like, oof, that has all these problems, and we know to avoid that. Like either way that might happen, knowing that it exists, knowing that people are using it in another tool is really useful. So I appreciated them sharing that. Yeah, I mean, the discussion is mostly me providing some workarounds with root middleware. They suggested towards the end even whether there should be some kind of default handling. So like if you discover a page, if Starlight discovers that the sidebar has no currently highlighted page, it will try to somehow work out what is the most relevant link using the current page's URL to find the kind of, I guess, most specific parent and highlight that instead. Maybe a little bit
And it's
tricky
tricky
to do, and I don't know if it
because
would be unexpected, but
yeah, and we don't highlight folder too.
yeah, you wouldn't highlight a folder, of course. No, I think you could end up highlighting that on the homepage for everything that isn't included if there's no direct parent. It's not easy to do. I don't think we do that, although theoretically it's a nice idea. In general, if there's a way to do something without configuration that is helpful and clear, that's great. Then you just give them a nice default. They don't have some pages in the sidebar, but the parent is highlighted. That's probably what they want, and it works. That could be nice. But yeah, like you say, it's a little bit tricky to do because if it's the homepage, you probably don't want to highlight the homepage. If there are multiple depths, we have to then figure out kind of rank those in terms of sort of segment specificity. So it's not the most complex, most simple bit of operation to do while building the sidebar, because for the page, you then have to kind of like weigh up all the possibilities in the sidebar and rank them and choose one. So it's a little bit more complex than it might sound algorithmically. I mean, it's not, it's not the most impossible computer science challenge known to man, but it's also not the simplest, given that sidebars, as we know, are quite complicated.
Yeah.
We've had, historically, the Starlight sidebar has one of been the most processing intensive parts of the build process, which is a bit surprising, but because it's all these nested tree structures and people have sometimes thousands of pages and things. Anything that you're doing over thousands of items for thousands of pages is, exponentially complex. So we have to be a bit careful. So yeah, no, it doesn't necessarily relate to your auto-generate thing, but I was going to say, given we're having a sidebar conversation, might as well throw everything in and see if it impacts anything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very interesting. And one other example I'm thinking about potentially these two APIs is that, for example, if you have a folder which is called APIs in your sidebar, you have a V2 folder which is auto-generated, and you also have the V1 auto-generated. But let's say you want to transform this to having all the links of the V2 version and the V1 version in that folder without the extra V1 or V2 folder. So these two API would allow for this because, for example, you could just say here V1, V2, V1. I guess you could do the same here. You could just... oh, wait, no, this would not look like this. This would look like this. You could have multiple auto-generated links from different folders in the same at the same level. Oh yeah, actually a better example. Thanks, Chris. So this is V2. So this would look like this label v1. So you auto-generated all the sidebar links for the version 2. You do not put that in a folder because I did not specify a label for this folder. And below that, you create a folder labeled v1, which will contain all the sidebar generated links for the v1 version. If we were to use this API where you can omit a label. The more I'm talking about this, and maybe it's not good feedback, but the more I'm talking about this, I was very afraid of this API at first, where you can omit label. But the more I'm using and saying it out loud, that if you do not specify a label, you do not get a folder, basically, I'm kind of liking it. So,
yeah, it feels quite, again, coming back to the kind of, if you can choose a simple API, that's often better. I mean, not always, because often clear is better than simple. But if they can go together, and I think in this case, potentially there's a good argument, like you say, that hiding label and removing the label being in the properties, also removing the label in the UI, it's a pretty good one-to-one. We might have to double check some of the types, make sure, because
definitely.
I think we have the open PR right now to improve some of the typing in the sidebar, and I need to make sure that we can correctly say label is optional when using auto-generate, but if label is always required for every other situation. So that kind of thing, to make sure we provide good editor experience as well. But I don't mind it. Sarah's saying it seems very intuitive. If I don't specify the section label name, there isn't one. Exactly.
Yes, that's basically the idea, the gist of it. So yeah, that was mostly the two or three ideas I had. I still want to play with them a little bit more, especially code-wise. And I also have a list in my notes of other cases that were not possible before, and I want to check, okay, would this API enable this use case, that kind of thing. I think I was maybe thinking about doing that today, but we are getting already past the, let's say, the break time. So one thing I will do is basically all the idea I have, trying to not write an entire documentation about it, but just try to see how we would document it. See, would it be easy to document it, to showcase both use cases, that kind of thing. And at the end, I'm gonna open a discussion on the Starlight repo to make a proposal for this API. I'm not sure yet if the proposal will be okay, this is the API I have in mind, I'm confident about it. Or maybe it will be, okay, I'm thinking about either this API or this API, depending on how, I guess, my mind goes when I'm working on this. Or maybe I will just focus on one API and maybe have a section at the end. Okay, this was the other idea, maybe this one, maybe this other one, and say why I discarded them. But anyway, the idea in the end is to get a proposal in a discussion, see what people think about, and see if people think about issues or potential improvement or totally different API. We'll see how the discussion goes, and when we get some kind of consensus, people seem happy about it, I guess we'll move on to implementing it. Implementation-wise, this should be relatively easy.
Yeah, it seems super easy to. I don't remember exactly how the code looks, but I guess we might have to add some logic that works out like, oh, if our Yeah, we have to like maybe fork out to have a function that generates the items and a function that generates a group with the items, and then
Yeah,
switch between them if there's a label or not, that kind of thing. But
yeah.
on
I
the whole, it
tried
shouldn't be
implementing
too
it
bad.
with the keyword um, proposal, and this was relatively easy to implement. This was a very basic implementation, of course, but this should not be the most difficult things to implement. So basically, what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no, definitely for sure. And it's the same if you're using the keyword or just
yeah,
checking
yeah.
presence of the label. It's
Shouldn't
basically the
change a
same
lot
thing.
of things, I guess. So yeah, that's basically it for me. This was really helpful to discuss about this idea, see what people thinks about, get feedback, and even talking about it out loud. I think helps a little bit. Can the what is it, the duck, the yellow duck or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rubber duck.
Urban duck, yeah, thank you. So, so yeah. So I'm aiming to get to wrap up and start a discussion by the end of this week. So I will share a link in the Starlight channel when it's done. So if you want to follow, if you have thought about that, I will be sharing that discussion in the Starlight channel in a few days. So maybe early next week. So keep your eyes on it, I guess. And I think that's pretty much bring us to the end of this call. It's already 15 minutes late.
Well, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go a little longer. Thank you so much, Heidi. I know this was a lot of you today. So I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your screen
No
and
problem.
explaining a bunch of things and trying a bunch of things. Um, it's always great to see you working on the code. And yes, as you know, someone had asked in the Discord chat earlier, is this a Starlight site? And this is why, in terms of Astro core teams and internally, the Docs and Starlight are part of the same team because working on one feeds into working on the other. The improvements that we make to Starlight, we can port over to Astro Docs when we update. Some changes we make in Astro Docs, some changes we make custom for ourselves. Sometimes we look at what we had to do and we say, not sure we can provide a great general pattern, so that's not going to go back to Starlight. But so much of what we do in AstroDocs makes its way into Starlight once we realize that, yes, this is maybe something people want. They see it in AstroDocs. They're like, why can't I have it? And so some of these filter their way back. I think we have open requests for things like our tutorial quiz components and things
Yeah.
that people find in the docs if they want to go back to Starlight. So this is an awful lot of back and forth. Even though AstroDocs is a Starlight site, it's a pretty custom site, and it's a site that predates Starlight. So there's still some vestiges of the old site before Starlight even existed that we're still trying to reconcile the two. But it's when you come to talking and docking, you might get a bunch of Starlight because that is we can't really separate out the fact that our Astro Docs site is an Astro site and is a Starlight site. And when we make the docs better, often it's because we are making Starlight better at the same time. This was great. And Chris, thank you for hopping on and being on call and jumping in with some extra context as we go through.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thanks
everyone
everyone.
for hanging out with us as we do this, whether you're here in Discord where we have a pretty casual and fun chat going on, or watching on YouTube or watching the replay. I try to drop all the links in there so you know what's going on. And we try to read out some of the stuff going on in our Discord chat here so you can see it on the YouTube video live stream or replay. Yeah, we just hope you enjoy this. We realize that, as Heidi said, sometimes just being able to talk through something, being able to run an idea past somebody else, being able to put an idea out while Chris is on the call and see if it's actually a good idea or gets immediately shut down. These are things that we would do anyway, even
Yeah.
if we weren't doing this in public. So we just decided, let's open it up and do it in public, and you can see how we work. So thanks for joining us, and we do this every week at the same time. We every week we're getting a little bit better about streaming to YouTube. So there is a playlist now of all these talking and dockings. You can always catch up later. You can always subscribe to the Astro YouTube channel if you want to be notified when something's going live. And of course, we love it when you're here in the Discord because we do have a lot of our silly chat going on here at the same time. All right, so let's let everybody get off the call, get back to the rest of their day. And as usual, we will just sit here and let everyone file out so that Heidi and I can do the teardown stuff, stop the event, stop the streaming. But thanks for joining with us. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend. And we will see you around the Discord.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.